Tonight's featured love-filled readers are Kaveh Akbar, Ellen Bass, Christian Anton Gerard, Nomi Stone, and Kelly Grace Thomas. Thank you for still being here. Please support these amazing poets by purchasing their books through independent bookstores or directly from their publishers. Authors and small businesses need our support now more than ever. And the links are all available in the PDF, and I will post them to the chat window as well as the readers are reading. Also, there is a suggested $5 donation to support the reading series and its readers, which can be paid via Venmo. That information is in the PDF as well, or PayPal. And the funds will be distributed among the readers and the series. Contributions are always welcome, but never required. So without further ado, was Kaveh able to join back on? He's not here.
He's here.
Right? He's here.
He's here.
Fabulous. Yes. Wonderful. So without further ado, Kaveh Akbar is the author of Calling a Wolf, Alice James in the US and Penguin in the UK, and the chapbook Portrait of the Alcoholic, Sibling Rivalry Plus 2016. His second full-length volume of poetry, Pilgrim Bell, will be published by Grey Wolf in 2021. He was born in Tehran, Iran. He teaches at Purdue University and is in the low residency MFA programs at Rudolph College and Warren Wilson. He's currently editing an anthology of poetry of the spirit for Penguin Classics. And this is such a compressed bio of his because the accolades just go on. And I can't wait to hear his poetry about love. So let's unmute him. Unmute.
Yeah, hi, yeah, can everyone hear me? Cool, hi, yeah, my name is Kaveh. Thank you, Julia, for inviting me to this space. Yeah, that was really dark. That was really, yeah, I mean, that was really dark. I feel unmoored a little bit. But yeah, I'm grateful to be here with you guys. And yeah, I have one longer poem that I'm gonna read. The ostensible conceit of our being here is to read poems about love. And this is a poem that, yeah, I guess it sort of orbits familial love that situates itself in a place that is maybe not amenable to the act of loving for certain kinds of people. And yeah, I mean, I also think that, oh God, I hate when I sort of give lengthy preambles about my poems because I think that the poems do fine on their own, but maybe just in the context of what is happening, I think maybe or what just happened, I think maybe it's useful to think about the plane of privilege in which I sit. Like that was a really angering thing that just happened. It makes me feel anger, but I think there's a gulf between my anger and someone else's fear. And from the vantage point of fear, anger looks very comfortable. Yeah, anyways, this is a poem called The Palace. It's hard to remember who I'm talking to and why. The palace burns, the palace is fire, and my throne is comfy and square. Remember, the old king invited his subjects into his home to feast on stores of apple tarts and sweet lamb, to feast on sweet lamb of stories. He believed they loved him, that his goodness had earned him their goodness. Their goodness dragged him into the street and tore off his arms, plucked his goodness out, plucked his fingers out like feathers. There are no good kings, only beautiful palaces. Who here could claim to be merely guilty? The mere, my life growing monstrous with ease. To be an American, my father left his siblings believing he'd never see them again. My father wanted to be Mick Jagger. My father went full ghost, ended up working on duck farms for 30 years. Once asleep, a couch, he coughed up a feather. America could be a metaphor, but it isn't. Asleep on the couch, he coughed up a white duck feather. There are no doors in America, only king-sized holes. To be an American is to be a scholar of opportunity. Opportunity costs. Every orange I eat disappears the million peaches, plums, pears I could have eaten but didn't. In heaven, opportunity costs. In her heaven, my mother grows peaches, plums, pears, and I eat them until I pass out and wake up in heaven, wake up and eat some more. I couldn't dream of doing anything by halves. Whatever it is, I'll take the whole bouquet. Please and soon. Are you still listening? Every person I touch costs me 10 million I'll never meet. Persons and persons, inside each a palace on fire, inside each Mick Jagger wearing a gorilla pelt coat covered in ostrich feathers. He calls it glamouflage. What's gone but still seen? Luckless soldiers, the pencil pushed slowly through my brother's tricep. What's gone but still seen? He didn't scream, just let his eyes water. If I smile even a little, they start sharpening their swords. And they're right. This is no time for joy. This is no time. The palace burns, pencil pushes slowly through my brother's brother. What's still but seen gone? A king governs best in the dark where you can't see his hands move. A king doesn't see us watching the king. We sew God's initials into our work shirts while our babies get thinner. The babies do not see us watching our babies get thinner. Our babies born addicted to fear of babies. Our babies gumming apples in the sun. America, the broken headstone. America, far enough away from itself. Hello, this is Kaveh speaking. I wanted to be Keats, but I've already lived 4 years too long. Hello, this is Keats speaking. It is absurd now to say anything, much less anything new. Hello, this is no one speaking. Hibiscus bloom, wet feathers, a tiny thumb of ash. To be American is to be a hunter. To be American, who can be American? To be American is to be what? A hunter? A hunter who shoots only money. No, not money. Money. I have a kitchen device that lets me spin lettuce. There is no elegant way to say this. People with living hearts that could fit in my chest want to melt the city where I was born. At his elementary school in an American suburb, a boy's shirt says, "We did it to Hiroshima, we can do it to Tehran." At his elementary school in an American suburb, a boy's shirt says, "We did it to Hiroshima, we can do it to Tehran." The take-home trophy, roasted goat baying on the spit. A boy's shirt says, We did it to Hiroshima. We can do it to Tehran. He is asked to turn his shirt inside out. He is asked his insides out. After he complies, his parents sue the school district. Our souls want to know how they were made, what is owed. These parents want their boy to want to melt my family, and I live among them. Palace throne, comfy, burning. I draw it without lifting my pen. I draw it fat as creation, empty as a footprint. How to live, reading poems, breathing shallow, spinning lettuce. America, the shallow breath. How to live, the shallow trap. America, catching only what is too small to eat. The dead keep warm under America while my mother fries eggplant on a stove. I am not there. I am elsewhere in America. I am always elsewhere in America, writing this, writing this, writing this. English is my mother's first language, but not mine. I might have said Paramjan. I might have said Khirahafis, sizzling oil, great fists of smoke, writing this. The first insect drawn by man was a locust. Art is where what we survive survives. Sizzling oil, great fists of smoke, art, sizzling oil, art. My mother fries eggplant. The first insect drawn by man survives. Who to kiss the prom queen? Brain pulsing like an oyster. Who to win the war? America rises, covered in the tiny grains of its own making. Fresh bread pocked with flour dust. Mistyping in an email, I write, I lose you so much today, then leave it. Forbidden mercies, the water bowl held to a prisoner's lips, windmills spinning around like drunk teenagers. Any document of civilization is also a document of barbarism, says the palace, burning. I, a man, am what I do not say. America, I warn you, if you invite me into your home, I will linger, losing, kissing my beloveds frankly, pulling up radishes and capping all your pens. There are no good kings, only burning palaces. Lose me today, so much.
That's the real drawback, is we can't hear the applause and the mms that are made while you're reading. I'm a big mmer while people read. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Please buy the book. I'm trying to figure out how to turn the chat feature back on because I blocked it so that I can share the links, but they're in the PDF document. So next we have Ellen Bass, who is celebrating her newest poetry collection, Indigo, which is stunning. To say that it's stunning is an understatement for what it is. Her poems appear frequently in The New Yorker and American Poetry Review. She's a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets and teaches in Pacific University's MFA program. A woman who really needs no introduction, and I cannot wait to hear her read. So let's unmute her.
Thank you, Kaveh. That was really, that helped. That helped make a transition. Really appreciate it. I decided to read romantic, more love poems. There's all kinds of love, of course. Maybe romantic is the wrong word, but personal love poems. These are all poems too are inspired by my wife of 38 years. And I think we just could use some regular old love. The morning after. You stand at the counter, pouring boiling water over the French roast, oily perfume rising in smoke. And when I enter, you don't look up. You're hurrying to pack your lunch, snapping the lids on little plastic boxes while you call your mother to tell her you'll take her to the doctor. I can't see a trace of the little slice of heaven we slipped into last night. A silk kimono, floating satin ponds and copper koi, stars falling to the water. Didn't we shoulder our way through the cleft in the rock of the everyday and tear up the grass in the pasture of pleasure? If the soul isn't a separate vessel we carry from form to form, but more like Aristotle's breath of life, the work of the body that keeps it whole, then last night, darling, our souls were busy. But this morning, it's like you're wearing a bad wig, disguised so I won't recognize you. Or maybe so you won't know yourself, as that animal burned down to pure desire. I don't know how you do it. I want to throw myself onto the kitchen tile and bare my throat. I want to slick back my hair and tap dance up the wall. I want to do it all over again. Dive back into that brawl, that raw and radiant free-for-all. But you are scribbling a shopping list because the kids are coming for the weekend. And you're going to make your special crab cakes that have ruined me for all other crab cakes forever. There was a time about maybe 10 years or so into my marriage. We always say the first 20 years are the hardest. And about 10 or 15 years in, I realized that everything that irritated me was a possible poem. And so I started to react to irritations differently. My first thought, instead of was, oh my God, how am I going to stand you, was, what can I do with this? The small country. The small country. Unique, I think, is the Scottish turtle. That hesitation when introducing someone whose name you've forgotten. And what could capture cafuné, the Brazilian Portuguese way to say, running your fingers tenderly through someone's hair? Is there a term in any tongue for choosing to be happy? And where is speech for the block of ice we pack in the sawdust of our hearts? What appellation approaches the smell of apricots thickening the air when you boil jam in early summer? What words reach the way I touched you last night, as though I had never known a woman, an explorer, wholly curious to discover each particular fold and hollow, without guide, not even the mirror of my own body. Last night you told me you liked my eyebrows. You said you never really noticed them before. What is the word that fuses this freshness with the pity of having missed it? And how even touch itself cannot mean the same to both of us, even in this small country of our bed, even in this language with only 2 native speakers. This is called marriage. When you finally, after long suffering, lay the length of your body on mine, isn't it like the strata of earth, the pressure of time on sand, mud, bits of shell, the moving water, wind, ice that carry the minutes, minerals that fuse sediment into rock? How to bear the weight with every flake of bone pressed in. O love, it is balm and it seals. It binds us tight as the fur of a rabbit to the rabbit. When you strip it, grasping the edge of the sliced skin, pulling the glossy membranes apart, the body is warm and limp. If you could, you'd climb inside that wet, slick skin and carry it on your back. This is not neat and white and lacy like a wedding, not the bright effervescence of champagne spilling over the throat of the bottle. This visceral, bloody union that is love, but beyond love, beyond charm and delight, the way you to yourself are past charm and delight. This is the shucked meat of love, the alleys and broken glass of love, the dizzy, hoarse cry, the stubborn hunger. And I'll end with this poem that was inspired by a poem by the poet Olli Heikkinen that was translated from the Finnish, and the title is the title of his poem, Sink Your Fingers into the Darkness of My Fur. Until this sore minute, you could turn the key, pivot away. But mine is the only medicine now, wherever you go or follow. The past is so far away, but it flickers, then cleaves the night. The bones of the past splinter between our teeth. This is our life, love. Why did I think it would be anything less than too much of everything? I know you remember that cheap motel on the coast where we drank red wine, the sea flashing its gold scales as the sun soaked our skin. You said, this must be what people mean when they say, I could die now. Now, we're so much closer to death than we were then. Who isn't crushed, stubbed out beneath a clumsy heel? Who hasn't stood at the open window, sleepless, for the solace of the damp air? I had to get old to carry both buckets yoked on my shoulders. Sweet and bitter waters I drink from. Let me know you, ox, you. I want your scent in my hair. I want your jokes. Hang your kisses on all my branches, please. Sink your fingers into the darkness of my fur. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And the morning after truly ruined me for all other love poems forever. Our next reader is Christian Anton Gerard, who is a woodworker and a poetry editor at 3 Elements Literary Review. He is the author of Hold Fast, CNR Press, and Wilmot Here Collect for Stella, Word Tech. Gerard is the associate professor in creative writing at the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. So excited to hear the poems. And once again, please do check the PDF document that's on Facebook for where to buy all of these amazing, beautiful books. So.
Hey, can everyone hear me? Are we good? Okay. Ellen, that was incredible. Kaveh, thank you. Oh, whew, this is amazing. Julia, thank you for putting this together. So I don't, excuse me, I don't talk a lot between poems, so I'll just read and then we can discuss later if there's not, if that happens. But I just like to read the poems. So I'll read from both books and then this new project that I'm working on that is sort of this, we've been calling him the tough guy, but he's not so tough, though he's an amateur boxer, and He hangs out by railroad tracks and he's always in love. So here we go. Wilmot here collect for Stella, or if I lived in a forest. And you lived somewhere else, maybe in the forest, maybe not, no difference, just somewhere else with a different language. And you found me in my forest and we had to talk, had to find out if the other was dangerous. I would point at a waterfall and say, maybe waterfall. And you would say, Le fin du monde. We'd stand there looking at each other as if we were talking about the thing or maybe what we wanted from the other. We'd probably point to a few more things. It would feel important, like the end of the world or maybe like the world itself. Probably then we'd realize the world is big, much bigger than either of us had anticipated, and one of us, without doubt, would try to walk away. This is called Anargeia, which is the 16th century and before, this is my super nerd coming out, word for how we try to make how we feel happen on a page for others. They called it Anargeia. A lace blouse and her hip-liming paper skirt. Dressing's enough to know the body craves touch. One way or another, how a moment reveals itself. She was once marionette, once a dictator. She wanted seamstress fingers, blues voice. Point, counterpoint, this whole evening. Not a hand to mouth, but a hanging paper lantern. And then the wind. You'll probably hear a distinct shift in voice with these new ones. So this is one of them. Every heart got 24 hours to beat, but that ain't laying me down with its lips. We keep trying to find that place called more time or enough time or damn any time, and I don't know when time's gonna know. A quarter mile turns into time, a finishing line, just a thing you gotta get to fast, is all the ponies in your pistons will pull. Maybe we draw a line, you and me, in the fifth oak from the rusting axles, been by the track since we've been going down there. Say we mark that tree and make like we're in your front seat, fumbling over words when everything in our hands is more than a day can hold. In the verb. Thing about waiting on someone's that you think real hard on what it means to make yourself an equal opposite reaction to an action ain't been actioned yet. I've seen Mars so many nights this summer, I think we're growing close. Maybe it's time we start sending letters. Like I'm just gonna start sending letters to Mars. I guess it's just, you know, I pray and say her name, but what if God's sick of me talking want? I'm sick of me talking want, and I'm the damn one ready to write Mars because I'm thinking God's sick of me talking want. Saying this out loud is like a crazy saying he ain't. This life's no blind leading the blind type thing. No way. Blind folk I know see better than I do and don't give a second's thought to writing a red nightlight asking for some answer from her night quiet when I ain't even asked a question. Blind Jake keeps saying closing my eyes don't mean I'm some sleepwalking bumbler. No, Blind Jake don't stutter. He says close your damned eyes, man, and see what you think you're waiting on or for. He says waiting on is different than waiting for. Last night I tried to hear every prayer being said, talking want. You imagine hearing all that day and night and day and night? The thing about waiting on someone is that you think real hard on what it means to make yourself an equal opposite reaction to an action ain't been actioned yet. I started thinking falls when answers come. Makes sense, because then leaves go away and there's more sky, but me and Mars been a thing this summer with leaves. Bet God gave me that red light, because waiting's its own fight. And this one is telling me enough. I've been trying to write about my son, which is just feels hard to get right. But this one I was happy with. And tomorrow he turns 7, and this was to him on his 2nd birthday. So to Ansel on his 2nd birthday. I should have written you last year. I should have written 365 words. It seemed too much for me. It was. My son, 750 days have happened. A poem on the occasion of your birthday is not the place for advice or wishes or hopes. So years from now, when you find this paper again in a drawer or some bag filled with papers, don't be disappointed that I've not said here those countless things I have for you. I want you to know I don't know what I will be able to give, how to imagine what you will make out of any of this. There are things I know, though. You are ironclad-headed and willow blossom-hearted. You know how to love. I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse. For me, it's both. For me, it depends on the day. You will feel what others can't imagine, the way you make a daddy and I am sometimes, a trochee others, a spondy when you're on the verge of dancing. Thank you for verging the verge, erasing it, for dancing without knowing others ask whether or not to dance. Maybe this will change and maybe not, yet this record remains. Ansel Christian Gerard. It's a clever innocence with which you do your sorcery. That's Jackson Brown. He always makes me feel in love. Love like the iris you found last week beneath the bushes by the deck. You nodded as your mother said, purple. Do you like purple? You knelt down and took the iris petals in your hands. You cupped them as one might carry a baby hedgehog from one hedgehog place to another. And if the pictures and matchbox cars were lost, I'd have that always. Listen, you have what matters from love. Never my whiskey oblivioned eyes, never your name slurred out my drunk mouth. A poem on this occasion, Ansel, can only be to say thank you for running to instead of from when I come home from work. Listen, God says words in night that night don't know how to hold, so it gives them to me. I'm like, night, what do you think's in me can hold any more or less than what it takes to lie here holding her, half wishing she'd wake and make words in you you'd give to God, because only God and her and me know how to hold it, what day says can't be said in a day. Can't much fault night though. I mean, it ain't just me and her and God with the words, and sometimes it ain't even us three. Mostly it's me feigning lonely with her and God when her and God are holding me, and probably I'm what night can't say or won't hold, because night don't want to be witness to what God only knows about me. That's my last one was called Forecast. This morning I cut my hair and left my beard. I want you to know you're with a man when your face is close to mine. There are times I'm not strong, but I'll save that for the night. I want you to see my whispers rise like fireflies from my chest. A man should always be full of fireflies. But this morning after the sun rose, I was full of prayer. I stood in the steam, the water falling from my shoulders, chest as if I was a mountain. I thought of you with my hands. I said prayers out loud, like the morning, our kitchen table, our mouths holding the sky. I thought the sublime, thought of you, your back, my chest fast against your trembling. I was trembling. You were a blood lily in the rain. I was a big leaf fern dripping on you, and there are times when beauty takes me slowly to my knees. You said you couldn't stand. You leaned into me, trusted my gristle to hold, trusted the fern would reach the ground, let the lily quake safe in the wind. I thought of you with my hands holding the hands inside you, my hands insides, our knees, a mountain, a flower, a storm bolt. I thought of your hands on the wall, my hands on your hands on the wall, how we prayed at the world's edge, how we held on, kept praying, our prayers, water falling 1,000 feet to find the calm that comes when water falls to itself. I want you to know a man can fall like water. I want you to know a man with fireflies in his chest can also hold a lily in the rain. I want you to know the man you feel against your face will fall to his knees in any weather to tell you this. Thanks, Alice.
Oh, you really got me with your sun poem. Our next reader is Nomi Stone, who is a former Philadelphian who I miss dearly. She's a poet and anthropologist and the author of 2 collections, Stranger's Notebook, Triquarterly 2008, and Kill Class, Tupelo 2019. She is an assistant professor in poetry at the University of Texas, Dallas. And lately, she says she's been writing a lot of love poems. So let's hear them, Nomi. I'm so excited. Let's unmute you. Is Nomi not here? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. It's because you had your real name, Naomi, and so I couldn't find you in the search as easily.
Hi, everyone. That was really scary and shook me up. And I'm so happy we're all together after it. And I can't think of any more soothing, special way to sort of recover than to be with you glorious people. So thank you for having me, Julia, and so fantastic to read with all of you. I hope I'm not too dark. We just moved and there are very few light fixtures in this house. Okay, I'll start with a poem called Field Notes from a Catastrophe. Stars throw their snow on the water. Quietly, we gather a document with the numbers, the tiny echoing laughs, the rows of cabbage and their lush toughness, a list of every loved one's hungers. I love you, I'm here, don't go under. This next poem is called On World Making, and it's actually a loss of love poem. I wrote it, my now wife, so it has a happy ending, but my now wife and I broke up for some months the first year we were together, and I wrote this poem in this time. So it's called On World Making, and the philosopher mentioned is Judith Butler. To love is to tell the story of the world. There was an ocean with a boat, mountains, a meadow too painful to stare at directly. Haven't I been here before? Yes. No, not quite here. It's not as if, the philosopher writes, an I exists independently over here and then simply loses a you over there. In the mist, a man rigs the Suzel, little red boat. Loved, labored for months, learning to tie the right knot, the exact and only knot that will keep the vessel tethered. She rehearsed for the worst possible thing. The attachment to the you, it is written, is part of what composes who I am. I knew those hands, hers. I watched her dust the sourdough with flour at midnight, a moon between her fingers. Gone went loved, but the half world of her and me was me. It was lit by the moon. And now, as a segue, I'm going to read a poem that I wrote in our honeymoon, just so you know that everything turned out fine. When you swim, make your whole body like a lung, says my wife, Rose, on our honeymoon. Yes, let the body swell and contract with the waves, which I try to remember when I follow her into the sea, not heeding the ambulances in me as we skim above urchins, their million arms. At dinner later, over spaghetti carbonara and tiny silver sardines also soaked in oil, we talk about how there are some people who are both afraid and uncurious and never leave their homes. Others are very curious about the world, but sometimes afraid. I think but don't say, we are equal parts curious, but me more afraid. My stroke is sloppy, so she teaches me how to frog my legs and arrow my arms, and every day I swim a little farther above the spines. I like it. The worm in my stomach tells me to leave, and I endure it longer till it passes. I have been so afraid of my body, measuring everything wrong or weak. The mononucleosis that lasted a year, a long cough, and the mistake of my lung skin folding on the x-ray, miming a spot. I wept. I died again in my mind. Oh, Rosie, I want to be brave, and I can. Last year, you were pissing on my leg after a jellyfish stung it when a wasp zoomed in. You gave me a look to say, Nomi, relax. And instead, I flailed your we into your face. This year, I let the wasps pass, haloed with a green gold fear. Then they pass, they pass. This is also for my wife. Okay, the title is For My Wife, who is writing a collection of stories called Homescar. Rocks are notched with sea limpets, and the pockets limpets leave once they've sealed into the rock and know themselves most inside it, shell swelling, softening the stone. You can sketch their home scar with your thumb, the X the body can't stop returning to, little mollusk driven by the seas, then sealing again to the same known. My glorious wife and I joke about home, grooves in the rock we land in again and again. I am from the soothing of P.F. Chang's, the shoe stores in the mall, the lit waves of others exchanging money for calm. Before that, my people are from fear. My great-great-grandfather left, hidden in a wagon of straw. He crossed the ocean early, just before he couldn't. I am from fear. I steer clear of harm if I can, wear an extra sweater, and don't let my ankles buckle. Oh, beloved, I will try to be bold. The body longs backward and forward, backward and forward. I'm gonna close with a dog poem, some love and some happiness in it. This is called Waiting for Happiness. Dog knows when friend will come home, because each hour friend's smell pales, air paring down the good smell with its little diamond. It means I miss you, oh, I miss you. How hard it is to wait for my happiness, and how good when it arrives. Here we are in our bodies, ripe as avocados, softer, brightening with latencies, like a hot blue core of electricity, our ankles knotted to our calves by a thread, womb sparking with watermelon seeds we swallowed as children, the heart again badly hurt, trying and failing. But it is almost 5, says the dog. It is almost 5.
Thank you so much, Nomi. Especially for ending on that poem. I have the broadside right up there. And lastly, to cap off our love-filled evening, we have Kelly Grace Thomas, who is the winner of the 2017 Neil Postman Award for Metaphor from Rattle. Her first full-length collection, Boat Burned, was released by Yes Yes Books in January 2020, obviously the best time to release new books, as everyone releasing new books knows. She lives in the Bay Area with her husband, Omid, and you can buy Boat Burned from the publisher and small book distributors, so do so, as with all of these fabulous authors.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much to Julia. You are just such a light of love and language, and I'm so happy to be in this space. Sad for unfortunate things, but happy for the comfort of the recovery. Thank you to all the other readers, swoon-worthy poems. I'm like sitting here rocking in my chair to your words. So thank you to the listeners, to everyone who's here. I'm going off ripe as avocados, as Nomi said. I'm gonna start with a love poem for my husband Omid about avocados. I cut avocado open and wonder at pit, how each half empties and fills. Avocados summer inside our home. I am braless, barely waking. The house a still secret. Bed a museum of our bodies bent and branched into hillside. The way you squeeze my ripened hips. Prefer me soft. a blur of morning stanza. I run my fingers through dawn. Winter shivers someplace else. I circle the recipe of your hands, rewind whispers, the tender tangle of ivy curtains, forest of your beard. You protect me. Hours after I have left you, stuck behind a desk, somewhere beige, hungry, I open my lunch, the avocado split in half, and I know somewhere there is a tree that planted us, a pit or concave where we sleep belly to belly. This next poem is a love poem for my mother. Her name is Letty, and it starts with an epigraph from Araceli's Garmai, and it says, "We must build houses for our mothers in our poems." And the title is "The Houses I've Built." After school, I did what any girl might. Cursed algebra, snuck in a smoke, thought about the bodies that raised us, the blackouts and parties. I gave myself away for an ugly swig of eyes. Mom, I can't blame you for these walls. The weight of the word wife, always so heavy. But I want to be more than what I please. I am learning to say no, to build my own roof, but I call you crying. And you ask about Omid first. Worry he has left me. Worry each meal will have an empty seat that looks like him. You gave so much. Gave your life to man or memory. Mom, I built this book for you. Tell me a kitchen table secret. Let's heirloom each other. Turn shame to sanctuary. This is more like love. Please know, I have always named you saint. You are beautiful with or without him, but let me speak the sadness. Build these poems. I will keep saying no. There will still be joy. We bloom, a January flower. Every daughter is owed these words. Even you, especially you. It's kind of weird, it's like eerie. This next one, I try to think of all different love poems. So I have two for my husband, I have one for my mother, and this one's for me, and it's called Lifeboat. Originally it started with an epigraph from Ocean Vuong that says, "Here's today, jump, I promise it's not a lifeboat." And this is called Lifeboat. Don't worry. Your mother will always live inside the house you built for her. A sailboat can only wait so long for wind. When you run aground, the buoys nod a quiet, "I know, Omid loves you." Anchor the children close at sunrise. You write about the morning after your sister almost died. Then your mother. The many ways the sea tries to take. They say, "Tell me a story," and you never know the right way to spill. This is the one where you and your father tied yourselves to dark, sailed all night to Florida, holding only a memory of sleep. This was the biggest goodbye. Your legs still rock. Now, in the morning, you look at the clouds you named together, how each of you chose your shape. And I'm gonna finish on a poem about, I'm gonna finish a poem, wrong page number, about my husband and his love of all things and saving spiders. And it's especially special for this reading because I started it in Paige Lewis's workshop 2 years ago, Kaveh's partner. So shout out to Paige and all their awesomeness. This is called Small Things. Oh, just backstory, I used to live in LA and have moved to a suburb of the Bay Area called Walnut Creek. Small things. The webs of Walnut Creek are all spun white. In our new town, I notice each grocery store glare, sticky stairs follow Omid down each aisle. Still, my love keeps quiet hands, wears kindness like salt and pepper stubble. I study him as he hums to houseplants. It's been hard for me to learn a love so gentle, to believe him when he chants me close, hushes gorgeous until I fall asleep. In the morning, he scrambles eggs. Spatula in hand, he spots the lonely daddy long legs in a quiet corner. The wall weaver, nestled next to light, he says, needing a home is such a small thing to be forgiven for. He lets the delicate geometry stay. I am slow to learn how to handle a living thing. I study Omid as he smiles at spiders. I ask him how. His speech, soft as saffron, breath, a net I lean against. He tells me he's been called a terrorist more times than he can count. His answer, save something smaller. Call each a guest, leave all doors open. Just because the world has called something poison, he says, doesn't mean we kill it. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Julia.
So now I love that poem so much. Thank you, all of our amazing readers.